Very good morning to all of you and welcome to Trends, Tech and Life, a show that's dedicated to looking at the now, but also what's headed for us in the future. My name is Segal and I'll be the host of this show. I've got two phenomenal guests. I'm really excited to be chatting to them. They're leaders in the digital age and what's coming ahead and going ahead, obviously. I'm really excited to be chatting to them, but I'm really excited about the show as well, because I think right now there is a lot about the now. It's all about COVID, it's about lockdown and where we're going, and people losing their jobs, and it just seems to be so down and out. Now, me as a person, I'm obviously very positive about life. I look at everything that's positive, and I want to see, and when I went into lockdown, and I think there's some people that went into lockdown going, oh, no ways, what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. I went into lockdown looking and going, where's the opportunity? How can I use this to my advantage to grow, not only myself, but as my business and various different things. So I think that's the thing that I really want to this is what this is what this show's designed for. It's all about preparing for the future. It's what we have to do and how we have to do it to be able to be successful moving forward. Yes, I know there is many schools of thought. This is a time for reflection. It's not necessarily a time to be proactive and get out there and get on and come up with new ideas and get engaged. But right now, I want to bring you as much information on the show as possible to help you to make better choices, maybe to relax more, to understand what's happening, how it's happening. So today's topic is obviously a hot topic. It's again, everyone's talking about it. It is 5G, and there's going to be a lot of questions about it. So please feel free to comment below, to like, to share, to do whatever you want to be able to get this show as many engagements as possible. But apart from 5G, we're going to be also talking about connectivity. We're going to be talking about the creators, because this is the time when digital is massive. It's when creators are really going to come to the forefront. And that's why I've also got other guests that's coming on, and I'll introduce you to them shortly. So those of you that have joined on, thank you so much for joining. This is Trends, Tech and Life, and it's Beyond 2020. Send messages, add comments, ask questions, like, share, etc. Really excited to have you joining us. So today's guest, we have Mr. Akhram Mohamed. He's the CTO of Huawei, a thought leader. You can't believe this guy's resume. I mean, it's just phenomenal. So he's going to be chatting to us more about 5G connectivity, tech, AI, all of that. And then we do have Mr. Preetesh, Sewraj, that is now taken over the Loeries as the CEO. He's got an illustrious career. He knows what it's about with regards to social media, creativity, etc. So those are my two guests today. I would like to welcome them onto the show. So stay tuned and get ready to ask them some questions. So welcome onto the show, Akhram and Preetesh. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Morning, Stephen. Thanks for having us on the show.
So tell me, this is interesting times. It's really exciting times as well for some of us. I just want to catch up first. Let's see what you're up to. So let's start off with you, Akhram. What are you up to now that obviously we're in lockdown? What are you up to, and what's the company up to?
Well, interesting times indeed. As you can see, you guys have a much better workspace than I do. Working under lockdown and remotely is something that's unusual. So I had to convert my LARPA into an office space temporarily, but we do what we got to do. The last couple of weeks, we had to just adjust and adapt. And I think a part of our discussion today will be exactly that: is how this pandemic or this crisis we find ourselves in has forced individuals to adapt and to change what they believe to be the norm or they're accustomed to. And this is exactly what we're going to see in long term over the future, is that adaptability will be key for us to be able to succeed going forward.
And so how are you finding this time? Are you finding it quite challenging, or are you finding it, it's something new, something different? Let's move on with it.
Yeah, I think, it is quite challenging. It's not that we cannot be productive working remotely under these circumstances. You most certainly can. But human beings by nature are social animals. So you miss that interaction. You miss being able to collaborate with your colleagues and your peers in an office environment. And those are part of the challenging aspects. We have a need to be able to share, to engage, to interact. And I think that is something that's really missing in what we have now. However, I think it's also a learning curve for businesses for organizations who have previously maybe thought that remote working will not be practical, will not be productive. And now they're finding that being forced into that situation, employees are doing quite well. In fact, not having to commute every day for 2 hours in Johannesburg traffic, avails more time for you to be more productive in other areas. So these are some of the small things. I mean, companies are looking at the fact that they can perhaps save on the cost of real estate because they don't have so many employees having to come to the office, and various other scenarios. So I think we will learn a lot from this and perhaps help us to grow going forward. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And talking about the social side of things, obviously, Preetesh, how are things going that side? How are you enjoying lockdown? Because I mean, you are an analyst, you know all about this stuff. I'm sure it must be creative there.
It is. It's as Akhram said, it's a very interesting time in our history, and it's one that we share with the entire global community right now. And so I started my job in the lockdown at the beginning of April. So that's a whole nother dynamic of starting a new role within a lockdown. But I think one of the things we're finding in the reality is that COVID-19's acted as a catalyst to get us to this environment where we should be. We should understand that working from home can be productive. I think it's also beneficial to organizations as well as to employee health. There does need to be the social aspect. So I think working from home is great as long as it's your choice. As soon as it's forced upon you and you lose the social aspect, I think it's a struggle. I've been noticing quite a bit of that with a lot of people that I've been engaging with. It's been challenging, obviously, managing a team in this time and keeping them motivated. But yeah, it's an interesting and challenging time. And I find that the nice thing that within the creative community and the brand communication industry, that a lot of people have been sharing is that, when it comes to ideas, you can't lock down ideas. So we may be physically locked down, but we have the technology available to be able to share the ideas and make the ideas a reality. And that's what we're doing right now.
I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. I mean, that's the thing. We're putting businesses to the challenge. I know the traditional way of work is, you come into the office, you do your hard time or you do your time or whatever. It sounds like an institution, but then, you get on out. And I mean, now you've got an extra, some of us, I mean, I know I've been caught in traffic when I used to work in Sandton, is between 2 to 4 hours, depending on the traffic and incidents. And now you've got those extra, let's say 2-3 hours just to be potentially productive, get more sleep in. And what's interesting is I know a lot of the employees are going, oh my goodness, this is going to be the end of us. But a lot of people are pulling through and actually showing their stripes and that we can actually work remotely. Funny enough, I mean, and we're going to get into it now with regards to 5G, but connectivity, it seems like we're more connected now than ever before. I mean, if I wanted to phone my mother or I wanted to phone a colleague or I wanted to engage with business, there's no excuse not to answer the calls. I mean, are you finding that there's now no excuse to not answer your phone or not reply to emails, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think
Akhram first or Preetesh.
Okay,
sorry. No, Preetesh, go for it.
Yeah, please continue.
Okay. No, I think you're one of the realities what people are finding with technology right now is you mentioned that top and tail commute time, but the reality is that during the day there was also a lot of commute time between meetings, during different spaces. Right now we're in a space where you can literally go from an 11 to a 12 to 12 to a 1 or 1 to 2, and you can do these back-to-back meetings. So your level of productivity is quite high. So sure, you are missing those calls in between, but everyone knows where you are. They know you're sitting in front of a computer. We're having discussions like this. I'm sure all three of us are missing lots of calls now already, but everyone knows that this is not somebody off on a long lunch at some point and having a good time. This is somebody who's working really, really hard on something. This is the reason why they're missing my call, and they can expect the call at a later time.
Oh, absolutely. And your side?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, totally agree with Preetesh. I mean, you find that in the office environment, you tend to waste time more. I mean, just being able to move from one boardroom to another sometimes, or you're sitting at your desk and you've got 5 people around you with something that could have been sorted out in the next meeting or perhaps via email. So a lot of time is lost in that case. I think also in terms of a work-life balance. Yes, we are working more hours perhaps now because of the back-to-back meetings with the likes of Zoom and everything else that's available, but we are working in the surrounds of our family. We are perhaps able to see our kids and our wives and much more, and I think that also psychologically plays an effect in terms of how happy an employee is, which will result in how productive they are. So previously, I think when it came to, and you spoke about technology and how is technology playing this, and how did people get used, how are we adapting to start accepting it? I think it was more about the education aspect or the adoption. People knew that we will now need to be able to have equipment, we need to be able to have routers, we need to be able to have strong Wi-Fi, perhaps fiber, whatever that may be. But the need was not created. The need was not there because I go to the office and I've got Wi-Fi anyway. I'm just going to use it perhaps for streaming and those kind of things. Now that it's become almost an imperative, it's forcing us to be able to go and learn how to use these things, to implement these technologies at home. I mean, I've never had a printer at home for forever. I've just bought one a couple of days ago. I mean, that's something that's typical, you know. But when we talk about technology in general, people are going to start to be able to adopt more usage of technology and to be able to appreciate the functionality of that and how it can improve your lifestyle and perhaps even your work life, rather than just being a novelty, because usually technology is just a commodity deemed that way and it's just a novelty for most people. Today we can actually see
100%.
that it's making some kind of difference in the way we operate and the way we function.
And I mean, absolutely, I agree with that. And talking about that connectivity, I mean, connectivity is the name of the game right now. It's all about being connected. I mean, this show isn't possible without having that connectivity. And let's jump onto the topic right away. So 5G, I mean, this is a contentious issue. There's more rumors, there's this and there's that, and 5G is going to be the next whatever out there. So let's get into it. Now, I think a lot of the problem is misunderstanding, miscommunication. I think there's fake news. I think there's a little bit of, and I mean, this is YouTube platform, so it's open source. We can do what and say what we want, really. But let's keep it in tune. But you know, what is? Let's chat to the people and let's unpack 5G. What is 5G? Akhram, I'm asking you. Sorry, to start off.
Well, you had to go on this topic straight off the bat, haven't you? I mean, yeah, well, I will attempt to answer, and I must start off by saying that I'm no scientist. I don't claim to be an expert in the field, because there's been a lot of conspiracy and a lot of stories around 5G potentially causing COVID-19 and a whole lot of other areas. What I will attempt to do, in my humble opinion and limited knowledge, but using data and fact-based data and logic and reasoning, is to try and explain what is the reality and what's going on. You know, I think
absolutely. I want it from your position, not a technical, you know, exactly frequency,
correct.
That kind of thing.
And this is not the this is probably not even the position of the organization that I represent, which is Huawei. This is now speaking as Akhram. But the reality of the matter is we've got to unpack the reasons for all of these things and the feelings that people have. And you know, it's the narrative is driven a lot by the conspiracies and the propaganda that's being spread out there. The truth of the matter is, if we look throughout human history, humans have been some form or the other resistant or afraid of technology to a certain level. And this goes all the way back. And when I say technology, we perceive currently in modern times technology to be the likes of 5G, the internet, mobile phones, artificial intelligence, robotics, all of these kind of things. But if you go back far into our history, even man being able to manipulate fire was technology. When we created the wheel, that's technology. You know, when we moved to writing and printing press, that was an evolution in technology. Even electricity and light, all of this. But if you look at each one of those stages as an example, being able to manipulate fire poses a risk. You could burn yourself. Even today, in modern times, you can destroy stuff, right? Having fire and bringing that into your home, the benefit is to be able to warm you. But you could also get really sick from smoke inhalation and poisoning.
Absolutely.
Right? Similarly, if you look at the time of Socrates and Aristotle, when they were looking at, they had a very oral tradition. And they used to spread, I mean, prose, if you look at poetry, all of this was common, even education and knowledge, but it was oral. When they started to move into the written language, even the likes of Socrates were resistant, because the concern at that point was that it'll affect human memory and the potential to remember, because everything is written down and we got it in volumes of books. So that
Absolutely.
again was resistance to technology. When
Yeah.
we looked at light and light being brought onto the society and to the masses, it first started off in lamp posts,
Yeah.
throughout cities around the world. And at that time, you actually had jobs created for people who used to go out in the evenings, and they had these
Yeah.
oil lamps, and they used to
Yeah.
physically go and light them. Now you got electricity that's going to be switched on by the button. So firstly, it was
Yeah, I
the
get
fear
you.
of all these people losing their jobs. The next aspect to that fear was also the fact that well, people were saying, well, if these lights are going to be on throughout the night, our houses are right across the street. They're going to affect
Yeah.
my sleep, and potentially I'm not going to have a good night's sleep. So that was now a medical concern, that
Yeah.
people had. And throughout history, you will find these examples of different situations when we were completely afraid. So I don't blame people for having fear, because we tend to, as human beings, to fear the unknown. What the problem is that when you get these mass hysteria and you get these conspiracy theorists that fuel this narrative through information that's either not factual at all and fabricated, or providing perhaps a little bit of scientific merit without context.
Yeah.
And
Got
if you
it.
look at just the one major issue and the one major concern, for example, people saying that 5G could or causes COVID-19. Let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
5G, but firstly, 5G is, electromagnetic waves. It's a technology that we use to transmit information. It's not something that is brand new, because 4G also used similar. What's the difference with 5G is that the
Yeah.
wavelengths are much smaller, so it cannot travel much larger areas and distances. For that reason, we need to have many more base stations available to be able to amplify, or to be able for it to reach. And even when you
Yeah.
have those many more base stations combined, they do not exceed the power of the wavelength of current 4G. And they don't have, this is non-ionizing radiation, or non-ionizing means it cannot penetrate matter where it's able to affect molecules or atoms, that it destabilizes them. It just does not have that potential. And if you look at it,
Yeah.
at the on the electromagnetic spectrum, it falls in the similar area to microwaves. And I don't see
Yeah.
people going and throwing out their microwave ovens from their homes. Almost all of us have them, right? So
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you look at this and you look at what COVID-19 is,
Yeah.
COVID-19 is the resultant respiratory disease or illness that's caused by the novel coronavirus.
Yeah.
So in order for you to have COVID-19, you first need to
Yeah.
have the virus in your body that's attacking your lungs and your system and your
Yeah.
immune system. It's similar to
100%.
HIV and AIDS. AIDS being the resultant
Yeah.
disease by the HIV virus.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
what we are saying, if we are saying that 5G causes COVID-19, we are then saying that 5G, these waves went and created a virus. These
Yeah.
enzymes that are able to go thereafter, because we know viruses by nature, if they are not in a host, if they are not in a
Yeah.
living organism, they can do nothing. Once they get into
100%.
the host and they're able to do protein synthesis and all of these kind of things, they are able to replicate and they are able to expand and they
Absolutely.
cause the chaos. Saying
No,
that,
for sure.
I think there's more likeliness of me being able to put a piece of chicken breast in my microwave, and cause that to have a virus,
No, I hear you.
rather than 5G causing it in your body, right? But why are people then? I think this is what I must explain. Why are people so afraid, and where are they using the stats? What are some of the evidence that is put out there? For
Yeah.
example, not just 5G, but telecommunications in general, mobile radio waves that are produced are classified by the World Health Organization as a
Yeah.
category 2B carcinogen. This is
Yeah.
fact. So then you would say,
Got it.
hey, Akhram, hold on. If World Health Organization has already said it's category 2B, there we go. There's our evidence. It's a problem, right? And this
Yeah.
is what most of these guys are putting out there. But I can
Yeah.
speak about anything in written form. I can give you any kind of text. I can give you any
Yeah.
kind of statement, scientific or not, whether it's religious, scientific. Without context, you can create whatever you want out of it. The context of the
Yeah.
matter is, if you look at the rating of level or category 2B by the World Health Organization,
Yeah.
of these waves that are created, it clearly
Yeah.
states that through all the scientific tests that have been done through
Yeah.
humans as well as animals and various other ways, they have
Yeah.
not found any form of definitive evidence that these waves cause any illness or any sickness or any kind of problem whatsoever. So why classify it as category 2B carcinogen? It's because evidence has shown that radiation in general at much higher amplitudes, when you look at the likes of whether it is X-rays, gamma rays, those kind of things, if they are directed directly to an individual, it could potentially cause a problem. So if those
100%.
much larger concentrations can cause, as human beings, logical, we put protection mechanisms in place. We are just being cautious. So they have put
100%.
it as level 2B. In comparison, processed meats, the likes of bologna and sausages and and bacon,
Be careful with the bologna.
is categorized as category 1. Red meat, beef, lamb, and pork is category 2A, which means highly probable to cause illness, according to World Health Organization. So if you are concerned about your Wi-Fi or your 5G router or your mobile phone making you sick, but you're not concerned about what you had for breakfast this morning, then your priorities are seriously flawed.
You know, there's that pointing game. I mean, that's where it's going at. And if you look at all the context out there on 5G, it's more of a race than it is, I think, and that's where it is. I mean, Huawei is leading the race by far. I mean, I've got my 5G router outside. I don't have COVID. I don't have anything like that. And I'm one of those people that are open to new technology and, anything to enhance my life and enhance how I do things. And that's what I'm finding with regards to 5G. Yes, I do the research. And obviously for the show, I read up on what's happening and birds and all of that. But, I think the conspiracy theorists out there, and I mean, please, those of you that are joining in, feel free to leave comments. I just had a look now. Leave comments, ask questions. We'll put it together, and then we'll run a next show with it, because I can see there are comments coming in with regards to it. So absolutely, I mean, 5G, there is hindrance, but really, let's talk connectivity. It's going to enhance our lives more than anything else, and it's more of a race. This company versus that company than anything else.
Yeah, I think we can perhaps bring Preetesh into this at this point as well.
Preetesh.
But, we look at 5G, and I think the misconception is people tend to think 5G is just faster internet speeds. Now, if you ask me, I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, if it's only faster internet speeds, I'm quite comfortable with 4G LTE speeds at the moment, and there's a risk. If there's a potential risk factor, rather let's remove it. Let's not take that chance. Any sane person will say that, because the value or the benefit you're getting does not justify the risk factor. But when you look at exactly what I just said just now about there's no evidence that's really been tested and put to the test to show that there's some harm, but you look at the benefit to human society, where 5G is just not faster internet speeds. It'll bring on the dawn of a connected world, connected societies, smart cities. It's going to create employment. It's going to create opportunities. It's going to be the connecting factor in terms of autonomous vehicles, which will, looking at South Africa, and you look at the carnage and the death rate on our roads, that we have annually. And then you see now a potential to minimize that. Right now, during COVID-19, we see the limitations for education, with our kids not being able to go to school, but how technology, how digital enables them. 5G is going to take this to another level completely. When we look at medical, and we look at what's happening in our hospitals and how under-resourced we are, 5G will usher in the age of when you will be able to have a doctor working remotely, sitting in the USA or the UK and conducting surgery right here in South Africa. And you have access to those specialists. And when you want improvement in society, it's not just about improving the economy, it's improving the lifestyles of people across the spectrum, not just the rich, but even the most vulnerable in society. And when you have access at large scale, it becomes cheaper, it becomes more cost effective. This is the main thing, is make it freely available, readily available. And once we have that, just look at fiber at the moment. We all know fiber is great. Fiber is stable, right? That's why we use it. It's one of the most stable forms of broadband we have at the moment, or the most. But it's only in the suburban areas. It's very, very expensive to establish initially. You have to pay your installation cost, you have to pay your connection fees, you got to pay all of this. Not everybody can afford that. And then also every single month, it's quite expensive. You look for the operator and the service provider themselves. They have to dig, they have to lay underground cables. With 5G, you eliminate all of this, but it has twofold. It can be used as fixed broadband, and it can be mobile. That means it reaches more people in society. It's able to impact more lives. It's able to improve and benefit more people. Ultimately, economies improve, society improve, businesses improve. We all move with those times, and this is what we
Yeah.
need to be able to realize, that it's going to help people to grow, to develop. It will help you in education, in health services. It'll help us learn so
Yeah.
much more. And at this point, I'd like to bring Preetesh in. I mean, on his opinion
Yeah.
and his comments, regarding that, because I think it is imperative for any society, modern society, to grow. For us to be able to embrace and adapt technology, but in saying that, in a responsible manner too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
I think
Preetesh, on to you.
just to add, so I'm not in the tech space, so I can give you a business
Yeah.
perspective, and maybe
Yeah,
even
please.
the societal perspective. And one of the things, if you look at psychologically, for some strange reason, if you look at us as human beings, we create a direct correlation between the amount of effort we put in and the reward that we get out of doing the work. And sometimes
Got
when
it.
you have this evolution in society where you now have to put in less effort, but your reward is exponentially higher, we start questioning how that's possible, because we think in a very, very linear way. And I think that's what's happened with a lot of people. They've looked at the massive amounts of benefits that 5G and potentially 5G successor technologies will be able to bring in, and they go, there's no logical way that we can achieve all of this massive improvements without some sort of detriment to society. And
love that one,
if there isn't any like top line discussion about the detriment to society, then there must be a reason that people are trying to hide this from us. And that's how the conspiracy theorists come out. And I think one of the things is it's selling ourselves short as humanity. We, throughout humanity, as Akhram has spoken about history, I studied archaeology, so I'm very passionate about our journey as human beings and how we've come through this. And the key thing that we've seen is we continue to make leaps and bounds at every step, and we build on existing technologies to do that. We're at a point right now in our society, in our history, where we've been able to make this massive step in terms of 5G and the ability that it brings. And I think, as Akhram was highlighting, that it's more than just faster speeds, and that's what people are struggling to comprehend. When all of these amazing examples are being shown about what 5G can do, they just can't comprehend it. I mean, look at us right now. I mean, if we went back to when electricity became a mass market opportunity where lots of people had access to it, even at that point, if we had said someday we'd be able to sit and do video calls and do conferences like this and communicate, no one other than maybe Jules Verne would have said, yes, that's a possibility. And that's where we are. I think we don't even understand where 5G can go to its full potential for 6G, 7G, whatever the success of technology will be. But we right now are standing at an important milestone in human history. And while we may have some people who are doubting our capability, I think what I'm excited to see in the business world and in society, there's a lot of people who are embracing it and understanding that this is an important step and something that can help us move forward in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely love it. And I mean, there's a couple of topics that I actually want to unpack with you, Preetesh, if that's okay. We'll do the first one, though, is, I mean, obviously, social media side of things, we really dependent on faster connectivity, better connectivity, being able to connect cameras. I mean, I've got a cam link, and I mean, this is an open platform. I've got a cam link here going onto my PC there, onto my desktop, onto a tablet here. And I mean, it's all different types of platforms to connect to one source, which is the social media. But unpacking what I wanted to actually get onto is, another worry that we're looking at, and it's just to come up, is, the harvesting of data. And I mean, that's another contentious or hot topic right now. Facebook is harvesting your data, and this is harvesting your data. How do you feel about, obviously, social media and what's happening, and where is it going from here?
Well, I think as consumers, and this is as a consumer, and just as a consumer, what I recognize, and I think hopefully a lot of consumers can apply their mind to this, is that when I studied economics in university, I was always told, Tanstaffel, people remember this, there isn't such a thing as a free lunch. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. And it's the same thing when it comes to free technology. You may have access to social media, which is Facebook or Instagram or whatever it may be, but you're getting that for free, but it isn't truly free. There's a give and take. They're providing you this amazing service, and in order to build on that service and grow that service, they need to generate a revenue. And you are the product, and the data that you provide allows you to be the product so that they can generate the revenue. And I think what we need to do is, as consumers, understand that if we choose to engage in platforms, we can't have it both ways. We can't want all of this amazing experience and this virtual experience and then simultaneously go, but I don't want to pay for it. You have to pay for it in some way. And I think what companies are doing is, and this is in general, I think companies are trying their best to be responsible in the space. I think there are challenges, without a doubt, there are challenges. But I don't think any company is sitting there going, I'm deliberately now going to try and manipulate this consumer data and release it to the world for free and let everyone sit. Those challenges arise because we're all in the learning phase right now. We're all trying to understand how to go through this experience of getting this data, maintaining this data, and ensuring that we can still use this data to generate revenue. So overall, I think the key thing is to everyone that first think of ourselves as consumers. Anything that you use, remember, it's not free. You are giving something. It's the data, and the companies, are held by there's strong legislation that's in place to ensure that the companies protect the data. Are they always going to get it right? No, but I think as a smart consumer, we need to go and understand how much a risk we're willing to take when we engage with various platforms.
And I agree with you. It's a risk that we have to look at. But also, I mean, are we into efficiencies? And do we like it that when we click onto our web browser, suddenly those adverts that are tracking us that we know, I'm always interested in photography or gadgets or tech or whatever it may be, that those adverts come up instead of seeing things that are non-related, got nothing to do with me. For me, my background in corporate is customer experience and user interface and that kind of thing. And for me, if you can make my life quicker, easier, faster, that I can absorb more, great. I do watch what I share, obviously, but I understand there is that the greater, bigger purpose that is about efficiencies. It's about giving you what you want when you want it. Talking about that, I mean, and I'm going to move it back also to Akhram with regards to this. Let's talk technology moving forward. Let's talk AI, robotics. Let's talk about, the workplace moving forward. Where's it going? I mean, if I'm now someone that is worried about their job, where are you seeing, Akhram? And then I'm going to ask you, Preetesh, with regards to this topic. Where are we going with regards to artificial intelligence, robotics, the workplace, that kind of thing moving forward? And where's the gaps?
I think, you saying, what, better, faster, quicker, you sounded a bit like a banking salesman there, Stephen. But going forward, into the future and looking at what happens in the future of work, as we say it, again, it's just going to be opinion based, right? Because we the only way we can measure that is where are we at in this present time, and historically where have we come from, and what has shaped history. Only then can we put those things together to determine perhaps what will happen in future. Because I'm not sitting here in Preetesh either as soothsayers or predictors of the future. We don't know really, to be honest, 100%. What's going to happen tomorrow. We don't. But what we can be able to do is being able to use evidence again and history to show us and to navigate and saying what we currently have that will influence what happens in the future. And based on that,
love that.
Throughout history, you would look at certain cycles that has taken place when it came to technology that determined the outcome of how society was able to adapt and grow, etc., etc. And if you look, for example, radio was one of the big ones that came, I think, in the 1920s or whenever. It was way before my time. So if I get the dates incorrect, please excuse me. But thereafter, television did exactly the same kind of thing, where you'll see this exponential curve and exponential growth, not just in adoption, but in terms of how much it impacted the lives of society, how much they'd be able to rely on it and what difference it made. Similar kind of thing happened when we looked at the internet age. And again, the social media age, etc. And now we are in the age which you are talking about, which is artificial intelligence, robotics, 5G, and et cetera, et cetera. What was key about
100%.
all those other ages that I just mentioned, though, is that many of them happened during the time of economic crisis.
Yeah.
When the world was going through a challenge. I mean, if you look also at the internet age, and as well as smartphones, when the likes of Apple, etc., came out, which 2007, 2008, and really
Yeah.
drove the smartphone revolution, which is
Yeah.
exactly at the point in time when social media and apps came to the fore and they started to benefit. Prior to that, we didn't
Yeah.
even know of their existence. We didn't even know social media. There were no such
Yeah.
things as influencers and social media managers. It created
Yeah.
industries, it created opportunity. But it came on the backdrop of the 2008 economic crisis and recession. The
Yeah.
likes of Amazon really climbing and becoming now Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, and he's coming this huge enterprise and monster, was built on the back of the economic recession of 2008, at a time
Yeah.
where brick and mortar stores were struggling, and we see e-commerce coming to the fore and all of these kind of things. So similarly, we tend to look at our struggles now, and then we look at robotics and artificial intelligence, which is where the future is going, by the way. And the first
Yeah.
resistance that people have is it's going to take away our jobs.
Mm.
Automation is going to take away many,
Yeah.
many jobs. And I think this is where the risk is. And that's why I wanted to start like this, because I see
Yeah.
robotics being the future. I see
Yeah.
automation and AI and 5G as well. And just on that point, 5G is not a standalone. I think a lot of the concern around 5G is we look at it and we put these things in silos and we look at it independently. 5G on its own is just faster speeds. But
Yeah.
5G with AI and with automation is the dawn of the smart factory. It's the dawn of the automated vehicle. It's low latency, better connectivity, instant. So all of these kind of things, they need to be able to work together in tandem to really improve lives. And you're going to see that happening more. But will automation, for example, will the likes of AI that's coming in really replace or take away jobs? Of course, I'll be a liar if I say they're not going to. These kind of
Yeah.
technologies absolutely will take away a certain amount of jobs, those mundane, monotonous stuff that we are doing. However,
Yeah.
it will create new opportunities, new industries and I'm talking about exponential growth. For example, when mobile technology launched, there was a fear that those that were employed in the fixed landline space will all lose
Yeah.
their jobs. Similar to the scenario that I gave you about light and the lamppost, the guys that used to go and light it every evening lost their jobs, but it created new opportunities and new industries. Same thing happened with mobile, same thing's going to happen. But what needs to happen is, like Preetesh alluded to earlier on about that regulation when it comes to privacy, we have the likes of GDPR in place, we have the likes of POPI that's coming into place to regulate that. We need to be able to have government, we need to be able to have corporations to work collectively to be able to regulate that technology is used in a responsible manner. And what do I mean by responsible manner? That if we launch and we introduce these new industries, but we don't have people equipped and skilled enough to do those new jobs that created, we have a serious
Yeah.
problem. So where does it need to
Yeah.
start? It needs to start in the education sector. It needs to start at the ground level. We can't be sending our kids to school studying the same things that they have studied
Yeah.
for the last 100 years because the education system has not changed. Yet
Yeah.
technology is fundamentally changing every single year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our world around us is changing, new things are coming out, but our kids are learning the same thing. How are they going to be equipped for the future? These are where we should be fighting. This is where we should be lobbying and protesting to saying that those people that are less fortunate, those in our society that don't have access to education, those that don't have access to technology, how do we uplift them? How do we take the factory worker that's working on the product line, who's just sorting something, who maybe AI can be able to replace, and take that factory worker and uplift him and give him skills so that he is part of this future of work and the future economy? These are the questions we should be asking, and not
Yeah.
saying stop technology, because stopping technology will hold us back as a society.
Mm.
It will hold us back as a people. Look at Africa. Look at
Yeah.
the history and over the past number of years, when the rest of the world in many areas were moving ahead and advancements. Yes, we adopted and
Yeah.
we got on, but we went sometimes, many a times, a bit too late. It held us back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to be able to have this. I often narrate a story. The One Laptop Foundation. It is a very, very interesting story. This
Yeah.
is fact. It had nothing to do with Huawei. But the one laptop organization, an NGO, went into a remote village in Ethiopia some years back, and
Yeah.
they found kids that were not educated, never went days of school, could not read a single letter, and they issued tablet PCs, Android tablets to them. It was an experiment to see what happens. No teachers, no instructions on how do you use this thing. In a matter of days, these kids found where the power button was, and they were able to switch it on.
Wow.
A few days later, they were able to navigate through the operating system. A couple of weeks later, they were able to go onto the internet and download apps, etc., etc. And in a matter of 6 months, they were able to manipulate Android's code. Kids that were not able to read 6 months
Wow.
previously.
That's
What
phenomenal.
this says to us is, it's not about your background. It's not about being in poverty. It's not about your current circumstances. It's really about access. We find this when Google came out. Part of the fear, many people said Google is bad. Even now, many people will say this. Why? It's making our kids dumb, because it's so easy to access information. Everything's there. They're not trying hard enough. I can tell you from personal experience, the amount that I've learned from Google, my God, it's absolutely incredible. It's even if it's snippets and little chunks of information, but you are able to expand your knowledge base. You have small amount of knowledge, but on various topics. You are well versed on many things. You can become the opportunity. Somebody sitting here in Africa, a poor child of African soil, can now know what's happening in the USA or anywhere else in Europe or in China for that matter. This is access. This is the true education, true access to information. This is what we should be pushing. We should be pushing to go into the townships and ensuring before, and this is what I mean. I'm saying 5G is great. 5G is the future. Automation is the future. Robotics is the future. We should not discount it. We should all work together to develop it. But when I talk about responsibility, before we start pushing out 5G, we need to make sure, in South Africa specifically, our rural areas, our most vulnerable people, at least have access to 3G before we can roll out 5G. If you get what I'm saying. We can't be rolling out 5G to those that are already fortunate, yet the less fortunate and those most vulnerable in society that really need it, and where we can improve society don't have access to anything. So there needs to be that responsibility. There needs to be that layered approach in conjunction with everything. And I think COVID-19 is forcing us into a certain direction. If you look at certain policies, especially in health services, we knew for many, many years we need to improve our health service and capability. It hasn't been happening. COVID-19 gave us a kick in the backside. Now government is rushing out to see how can we improve health services? How can we treat more people? How can we go into poor, impoverished communities? Same thing, social investment. The most vulnerable in society, how do they buy food? How do they eat? We knew they're vulnerable. We knew the state grants that they were given were not enough. But nothing really had been done because we weren't forced into that situation. Today, we now have 350 Rand extra being committed to that. Why? Because we have to. But I predict that in future, more of these things because will start to happen, because we now realize that, guys, we've been sitting for way too long and not making a move. We now need to be able to see how can we do this so that we're not back in the same situation in the future. Similarly, technology has the same effect. Corporates are going to be able to roll out. Operators, network operators. If you see now, Vodacom launched 5G in certain areas in South Africa. Yes, it's not all over, and they can't possibly roll it all over. But one of the key things is they didn't launch just 5G, but with the allocation of new spectrum, they also improved the quality of their service on 4G LTE throughout the country. They improved their capacity. The prices are dropping. The likes of MTN also dropped their prices. So all in all, communication becomes more affordable and more accessible. And this is what we need for a better society.
100%, and that growth, absolutely. And I wanted to move across to Preetesh with regards to it, and I absolutely love what you were saying. And ladies and gents, those of you that are out there, obviously, this is about a show that gives people the opportunity, or influencers or guests on the show, to be able to talk and not be held back about what they're saying and cut short with regards to it. We want to learn, we want to grow. I want to show the future and try and get that across. So Preetesh, talk to me as well. AI, robotics, social media. I mean, everything's social right now. Everything from TikTok to YouTube to, it's just booming. But where are you seeing moving forward? Where are you seeing gaps? Where do you see AI and robotics coming in there?
Yeah, I think one of the things what we're looking at is with AI and robotics, it has this really interesting ability to add value to various functions, and I think business is trying to figure out and where exactly that technology can get. And if you look at history, and if we had to go back in terms of a historical perspective to actually explore it, um, if you look in terms of early robotics and the way it was actually used in the car manufacturing industry as an example, no one knew that it would have that application until the technology existed. And I think once we can make the technology available, once we have wider access to 5G, you're going to tend to find that business leaders are then going to find ways that it can adapt to their specific situation. And in terms of the job market, as Akhram was actually speaking about as well, there's always this concern that jobs are going to be lost. But the reality is what we have to recognize is that every single year, maybe even today, there are jobs that become extinct. Sometimes it's not because of technology. Sometimes it's just because of moving different business practices. And we don't shine a focus, we don't shine a spotlight on that purely because it might not be as sexy as linking it to technology. And so it is, it's true. I mean, it might be just systems, there might be improvements in processes that cause job extinction. But the beauty of the environment that we are in right now, when you look at technology, and when technology causes certain jobs to be lost, or maybe the extinction of certain roles, the reality is that technology then needs a support structure around it. And that support structure then leads to some amazing opportunities, sometimes even higher paid. So the potential, it's actually uplifting the market, because the potential to earn a higher revenue on the new jobs being created for an individual is a lot stronger than it was in the jobs that got lost. So therefore, it's actually uplifting society. It's improving the economics of areas, and we can see this whether it's in China, whether it's in India, any area that has had access or the ability to manufacture new technology, to be involved in it. You've seen an upliftment in that society purely because when those new jobs were created, those individuals who were involved in it suddenly had a better way of life. And I think that's a key thing that we need to keep in mind. And as Africans, what we need to think about is how can we bring these opportunities to the African continents? And as Loeries, we focus on Africa and the Middle East. So even across Africa and the Middle East, how can our region find a way to find strength and be stronger through this process?
No, absolutely. I mean, companies, and I've been looking at it as well, and I'm being part of now the CEO of the Loeries. Again, congratulations for that role. Is that obviously marketers nowadays, social media experts, digital experts, if I can put it that, I'd have to be more clever, because obviously there's a whole lot more people coming on and a whole lot more creatives. I mean, is that changing the landscape of how we are engaging now on a digital front, would you say?
Yes, because I think we were looking at something even within the Loeries. If we look at a lot of work that we were doing, there was a lot of work at one point in our history that was very print focused, and we did a lot of work in terms of and that's obviously dropped. I mean, sadly, you're hearing of a lot of magazine organizations that are closed down during this COVID-19 outbreak itself. So there's always going to be a flow of attention to wherever it can be accessed the easiest. And right now, in terms of the digital world, that's where information can be accessed the fastest, where you can navigate through it and have a wide selection of information. So you are seeing, in terms of the creative space as well, greater attention going into that space. But also what you're seeing is the ability of technology to change the thinking in terms of how we serve information and serve knowledge to a wider base of consumers right now. And the agency and brand communication environment are spending a lot of time and effort to figure out how to embrace this technology a lot more. And I think, as Akhram was highlighting, is COVID-19 is a major challenge for us as a global society. But in lots of different areas, it's acted as a catalyst. The technology has always been there. We've had the ability to do a lot. But there may have been a trust factor that was lacking, where employees may have not necessarily trusted their employees to be able to go out there and work from a home environment. It's true. That's it's sadly one of the reality. And they may have
Preetesh, like Winston Churchill famously said, that never waste a good crisis. So I think that's what's been happening now with this COVID-19, is that people are trying to get the best out of it because we're in it already.
You're right. We're in it, and I think people are making the most of this crisis itself to actually go out and see how we can actually move society forward. So I think it's tough. There's a lot of pain that we're experiencing now, but businesses, the creative community, and society at large is going to come out a lot stronger from this.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just so interesting. And on talking about that, Akhram, do you have anything to add with regards to what you're noticing moving forward?
I think we've covered a lot and a lot of interesting in our allocated time. I think what is very important, that the message that I would like to give out to your listeners, though, in conclusion of the topics that I discussed, is that all viewers, everybody, this is important. I salute you, Stephen, for the show and what you're trying to do, because in this current state that we find ourselves in as a global community, we require collaboration. We require consultation. We require dialogue. And this is exactly what it is. It's dialogue, rather than people debating and fighting and trying to see who's right and who's wrong. It's not about that. So my message to everybody is, I have personally attempted to give my opinion on this matter and where I see it. But like I said, I'm no scientist. I may have made an error in a statement, or something that I have mentioned may not be able to test scientifically at that on a certain level. For that, if I have done something or offended, I apologize. But the gist of the entire message, and I think this is what we need to be able to take, is that we need to be able to sit down, analyze, use logic, use reason, use factual information, and then make up our minds, rather than just running with the masses and what seems to be popular at that period in time. It is important that we bring people in the industry together. It's important that we are able to consult, that we be able to ask questions. And if we find that something is of concern, that we go back and we act responsibly as citizens to try and address those. I think, in a nutshell, responsibility is the most important thing. So from everything I have said today, what do you think that is going to make a benefit to you? Take that. What do you think is absolutely useless? Throw it away. No problem. But this is what we need to be able to doing. So I thank you for this platform, and my friend Preetesh for also giving us his wisdom. But I encourage you to please continue the great work you're doing and get more specialists. Perhaps the next time you can get a real expert and a real scientist on your show to be able to unpack this. But I think well done.
No, I appreciate your time, Akhram. You're a really busy man, and I thank you so much for your time and being willing to share your knowledge and share your outlook on what's happening and how it's happening and where the future is. And that's what I really want for the viewers, to be able to see and feel, be connected with people that are leading, digital right now and leading the world, if I can put it that way. And I love to hear your opinion on it. And remember, it is your opinion. Preetesh, on your side, in closing, messages going out, moving forward with regards to the viewers?
Yeah, I think to everyone watching, the key thing I'm going to leave you with is that we're living in a world with a lot of noise and not enough signal. So try and latch onto the signal wherever you can, and leave out the noise. You're going to find a lot of opinion, and especially in the tech space, there's a lot of opinion, and that's great because it shows that people are passionate about it. But not all of that opinion is rooted on sound scientific fact or even on sound experience. So if you really want to have the best experience, go out and try it. And I think that's the key thing in tech. If you're sitting at home and you're criticizing 5G without having ever tried 5G, or you're criticizing a certain ecosystem, let's say, even on a mobile or whatever it is, don't criticize anything until you've actually tried it out. And go and test it, because your personal experience will allow you to get the best idea in terms of how it works, how it operates, and how it adds value to your life. And only post that are you going to be in an informed position. And I think the reason we need to do that, because it might change your life. And it might change your life definitely for the better.
I absolutely love it. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for your time. And congratulations on your new role. I wish you all the best. We'll definitely be in touch. And I'd love to be in touch again to chat a little bit more about the Loeries and what's happening moving forward. Same with you, Akhram. I really thank both of you for your time. I'm sure the viewers also agree. There's been some questions that we'll unpack a little bit later. But have a great day. Thank you again for your time. And all the best. Stay safe.
Thanks. Same to you. Keep well.
Thank you. So, ladies and gents, that was our guest, Mr. Akhram Mohamed, the CTO of Huawei, as well as Preetesh Sewraj, that is the new CEO of the Loeries. So that is Trends, Tech, and Life. This is pretty much the source, and this is what we are talking about with regards to this series. It's unpacking what's happening currently, but obviously what's moving forward. What are the latest trends? What's the latest tech? And obviously what's happening in life. And I think that's the key thing with regards to it. So we're going to have various guests on the show. We're going to go from everyone from health specific people to fashion to trends. But the main thing is, where is life going? Where's the tech? Where are the trends? What's happening in this world? And how can we stay ahead of the curve? Yes, we're flattening the curve with regards to COVID, but we want to be ahead of the curve with regards to jobs, life, and where it is right now. So those of you that have joined us, thank you so much for joining. Please don't forget to subscribe below. Join, comment, like, and share this with your friends, because it's all about sharing. It's about connectivity. It's about being connected. And what I love about what our guests chatted about is understand technology. Go and read up on it. Go and learn about it. See what it's about before you spread, rumors or things like that. And those of you that would like to obviously ask our guests some questions, please send them through on the YouTube right here. You'll see there's a comment section. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe, like, and look out for our next episode that's going to be coming up shortly. Until then, stay safe and all the best. I look forward to seeing you again. Cheers.